What's up, nerds? Welcome to Chapter 3 of Season 4 of the Unvaulted FORTNITEMARES podcast. I am your host, Squatingdog, and for the update, they call me, "Oh, what the hell is that chicken doing here?" Anyways, let's talk about FORTNITEMARES. I'm joined with It's PM, has amazing takes. At least that's what it says on your background.
Yes.
Is this becoming a whole thing, PM?
Yes, I am clapping back at these takes as people tell me I have very bad takes. I am going to come out and Skip Bayless this and just say I have amazing takes. So this is going to be on the show. Just be aware of that. So
I didn't realize you had a full PR team backing you on this.
yes, it is my two corgis, and they told me to do this, Ivy and Georgie, and so I'm doing it.
I kind of like you having bad takes, though. That's more fun for me, at least. But we'll see how far this goes, and if it's just an ironic take.
I feel like I have some good ones today, hopefully.
Okay, good, because we're talking about FORTNITEMARES. FORTNITEMARES is, I would say, a beloved time for the Fortnite community. A lot of people get really excited about the season in general. It's like one of those fun holidays. It's like you can be anyone and you can scare the crap out of anyone. And so I think it's like a very fun environment that you only get once a year. And Fortnite in the past has done incredible stuff to kind of like integrate that, sometimes naturally, sometimes unnaturally, into the game of Fortnite. And so we want to talk about what they've done this season, and what we can kind of gather is going on behind the scenes based off of what has happened with FORTNITEMARES. So based off of everything that I just said, PM, like quick bad take, what is your overall feeling of this season of FORTNITEMARES?
Probably the most forgettable by far. I've loved every FORTNITEMARES update that's come out that Fortnite's ever done. Even with, there were some seasons or some years where the zombies were like way too overpowered and it was super annoying and everyone was complaining. But I feel like as far as the hype goes and the content around it, this one just missed. And we'll get into that a little more, but I think my general blanket statement is I just don't think it's the best, and I just don't think it's top 3.
Okay, that's a solid argument. My question for you is, well, actually, I think I should say this: like, you're not a guy that uses all caps very often, but when I'm streaming and FORTNITEMARES was right around the corner, I could not tell anybody that's listening more how excited PM was for FORTNITEMARES. I feel like you probably had you were just stoked, like FORTNITEMARES is coming.
Yes,
I'm freaking excited. This is my moment to shine. They could do no wrong is kind of what it felt like. And now we're getting, it's forgettable. Like, what do you think happened in the course of a year?
I think
for them to change it so much to where you are like, is this like just because you have played the game long enough that you're getting tired of it? Is it like FORTNITEMARES itself just isn't hitting as hard as it had in the past? Like, what kind of separates that in your mind?
One of the biggest things that I loved about FORTNITEMARES that they didn't do this year that they did before, and I think I hinted at it a little earlier ago, was the zombies. I actually liked the kind of the horde rush. I think they have a mode for it now that's dedicated for it. But yeah. I actually liked when they incorporated that into the game, even if it was only for like 2 weeks and it annoyed everybody. I thought it was an amazing, refresher into the game and things felt active and lively. And this one just feels like they just didn't want to fully commit to some things. Like they're obviously trying to do these NPCs that are very scary. The one at the bottom, the Grim Gables, the creepy girl in the cabin, the one at the reality tree, and they really want to incorporate these POIs as like scary areas. But I feel like it just didn't work, and I feel like no one really cares. A lot of the mechanics that they introduced for the zombies, mainly the chickens, which we'll talk about here soon, is more annoying than it is fun. And
Sure,
I feel
sure.
like I feel like there's the difference between the horde rush versus the zombie chickens. And I think they were trying to do something new, and in reality, they could have just kept it the way it was, done it for 2 weeks. Everyone would have been happy, and then moved on. And then another one is I just feel like some of the cosmetics just weren't great. A lot of them didn't really speak to me. There's one coming out tonight that I believe you got early access for. Um, I believe a lot of content creators do. I'm just blanking on the name of it, but
The
I just
punk
looked
skull
at it.
guy.
Yeah, the punk skull guy, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
okay. I was like, this doesn't scream Halloween to me. Like I'm like, okay,
sure.
sounds good. I just think that you look at the other Fortnitemares with Midas, with the Storm King and
Hmm.
stuff like that. There was a lot of build up and hype for these moments, and then this one just felt like it was another update.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's. I feel like that's a good articulation of some of the stuff there for sure. I want to dive even deeper though than just that because I think my guess is it feels as if Fortnite's resources are being allocated elsewhere. Is what it's really. I think this is what it feels like because a lot of what we got, I would sum up to being a copy paste mentality
Hmm.
versus a like innovate something new, or even involve content creators in some creative way. Last FORTNITEMARES, they sent out these massive cards to content creators, and they like had pictures of like these really exotic like cards that had each of the characters that they were going to unveil. And I feel like that alone, that energy is what I'm talking about. Like they're like, no, FORTNITEMARES is a thing. We're coming hard. Like we're gonna get people excited. We're gonna bring some mystery to it. And this one, it was like, oh, okay, I guess they did that again. And I think
Yeah.
that that is the difference that I experience from at least from a content creator standpoint. I'm sure there's people out there that really, really love like no matter what they get. And I'm kind of that way where it's like, oh, at least we got something new to talk about. At least we got something new to play. But it's hard not to compare and contrast, right? When you have experienced 5 years of this game, and so you start to naturally tally like where these the seasons go and where these like four nightmares are starting to go, and so you start to get a little bit more petty, I think, in some of your arguments, but I think some of them are valid because like we get excited for this time of year. And I think one thing that I would really like to talk about later is like this idea of like when you drop on the island, it doesn't feel like Halloween. You get the
Mm-mm.
battle bus, which is cool, but it doesn't feel like Halloween, which in the past Fortnite has really done a good job of like world building Christmas or world building Halloween or world building like a specific holiday. And I feel like they didn't spend any resources at all really world building this too, which makes me even more believe that like resources, like how many people are working on this project are being put elsewhere. And
Yeah.
my argument would be chapter 4. I think like chapter we're on the brink of chapter 4. All of the reason we have seen this every chapter. The season before, the chapter that's coming out, where there's tons of resources being used, a lot of marketing going towards it, a lot of energy going towards it. The season before is kind of scrappy. Very
Hmm.
simple copy and paste mechanics, using things that they already have, but twisting it in a unique way. Like a good example is like tornadoes, right? We had tornadoes already. All they did is they changed it to Chrome, and now we have like those on the map. It's like they make these types of smaller things that smaller teams can create and do, while big teams are working on the big projects right next door. So I think, unfortunately for all of us, this season just came up right when something big is happening, and we're feeling that a little bit from the content side of things.
Yeah, and I want to quickly add, you mentioned about the feeling of the battle bus and kind of feeling the map not feeling like Halloween. And I think one of the things that they do well with the Christmas seasons and the previous Halloween seasons is they do some sort of weather shift on the map. So with the
Right.
Christmas and winter, it's all snow, right? Like one of the best
Yeah.
seasons was when the whole map was snow. for some reason, and I think I narrowed it down. This map doesn't have fog, right? So the previous Halloween seasons, it was fog everywhere, right? It was spooky, it was dark.
Yeah,
There was like you can go to certain areas and it changes the time of night. Like if you go to
right.
Grim Gables, it'll turn nighttime and you leave and it goes day. I feel like they just needed to commit to full fog, full creepy around the entire map, and I feel like that would have gave me the Halloween vibes because I just feel like this is more of a small content update as opposed to like a big event.
Sure,
And
sure.
yeah, I think they could have definitely done that, and that would have made me feel more like it was Fortnitemares.
Yeah, I think I agree in the sense of like it feeling like a different season.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Fortnite gets a lot of critique for this in general, like, like biomes on the map, and we got biomes on the map. Like they eventually get there.
Yeah,
I just think like I said earlier, I think there's just less hands involved in this project, and we're getting the product of that, right? Like if you if you if you have a team of like 200 helping you like create content versus one person, you're going to feel the difference in that content. It's going to look less produced.
yeah,
And so I think like that's what we're getting at and what we're seeing. But I want to talk about that topic in particular a little bit later in the podcast, because I've got some interesting ideas on it and like how it'll affect the future of what's to come. But I just wanted to itemize and talk about specifically everything we got this Fortnitemares, and maybe some of the things that they could have done to spice it up and make it a little bit more fun, which one of those things, the world building thing, which we talked about. But I think there's more things that could cause people to actually want to play during this season versus what we got.
yeah,
So I think the most notable one, and the one that I think is the most hilarious, because chickens just started attacking us before the Halloween update out of nowhere. I don't know if you were a player and remembered this, but you'd be just walking and a normal chicken would just start attacking you. And you're like, this, like, you guys have heard my pleas on the podcast of like, wildlife should be chill until you anger them. There's no
yeah,
point in them, maybe a dinosaur, but like I didn't anger that wolf. I didn't hurt its family. Why are you attacking me when in the middle of a fight right now? Like, this is not cool. And then chickens, they just started jumping in on that. They're like, this is cool. Like, let's attack anyone we see. And then a little update came out and they stopped doing it. And we were like, what was that about? Fast forward to now, and we have Fortnitemares and they're zombie chickens. So the AI code got like updated into the game client accidentally. And now we've got zombie chickens. And zombie chickens, like, I mean, they're creepy looking, they're funny, they make weird sounds, but like ultimately, it's like you just have your annoying brother.
yeah.
You brought your annoying brother to your friend's house. That's ultimately what these zombie chickens are, in my opinion.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's. I don't know how many times I've been in a fight and all of a sudden like two zombie chickens just show up and I'm just like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what? You were making this way more complicated. And like, this is not like a horde rush thing where it's like, there's so many that the other person fighting me has to deal with them too. It's like,
Yeah,
no, it's like these two chickens have it out for me like 15 feet away from the other person, and then I have to deal
right.
with these two because they're just hammering me with damage. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is more than annoying, but I guess that's good for zombies.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think that's their take on zombies everywhere across the map. It's a slimmed version. They know it's annoying. They know you're gonna know it's zombie, but that's not for nightmares, right? Like that's their take on not pissing off a lot of players because of what we've had in the past, I think. And I think they're a little scared or intimidated to like
yeah,
transform the entire map with zombies, because they know players were really annoyed with that. Like, and it really ruined their games. And so I think like, I don't know. We'll get into more of that. Like I said, like we gotta talk about this contrast of like whether or not there's a zone that does this, or like the entire map gets to be able to be transformed. And I think that's the wrestling Fortnite has constantly been doing, and they've gone back and forth so many times. And so speaking of these, like, we'll call them rift zones, those were kind of the first time we saw this. There are 3 areas on the map that have scary areas, where it's like feels like what we had imagined Fortnitemares would feel like. And that's Grim Gables. We got the reality tree, and then there's a few cabins. I guess there's 2 cabins. Ash's cabin, and then I call her Stabby Girl, that like freaky big-headed chick that just starts running at you with her pickaxe. Those are all of the assigned areas that Fortnite has allowed to be scary. So if you go in there, jump scares. If you go in there, it's darker. If you go in there, there's fog. If you go in there, there's like these elements of you are deciding to drop here. So it is on you. It's not on us, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
As opposed to you're dropping on the island. There's zombies everywhere. Don't play our game or play our game. You know, like that's kind of the verses I see in my mind. But the areas that they do have are fun. I thought Grim Gables was going to be freaking, you know, like another episode of Stranger Things. Like I wanted that. I wanted this to be Vecna's house. I don't know if there was like some work in progress there and it just fell out or what, but at the bottom, if you go to the bottom of Grim Gables, there's like this summoning circle underground. You stand on it and you emote. Scary, like chrome lady pops out and starts shooting you with like fireflies and rocket launchers. So if you want that in your life,
and a mythic SMG too,
and you get the mythic SMG, yeah. So if you want that in your life, that's all you have to do. It's kind of fun to fight her. It's also, I would say, more importantly, if you listen to this podcast and your friends don't, you have an advantage here. This is where you go and take your friends, go, hey, I heard about this cool thing downstairs. And then you go down there like, I wonder what happens if you emote on it. That would be kind of funny. And then as your friend is emoting, somebody just comes out with like a rocket launcher, starts shooting at them. All you got to do is watch. That's content. Please upload it. We would love that. Yeah. So Grim Gables, what do you think? PM, you've been dropping there pretty much since it's been here.
Oh, I love
it. Thoughts? What are your feelings?
Grim Gables feels like OG Fortnite to me. Like chapter 1 Haunted Hills type Fortnite. Right. I'm a big I love Shifty. Shifty was my home and native, and I was sad to see it leave, but I think Grim is a fantastic drop spot. It was better when the blimp was there. I'll tell you that.
Sure.
Simply because I could go to the vault or I can sit up there and kind of beam down, but it's been my number 1 drop spot this season for sure. So I love it. I actually didn't know about the the person beneath the basement until last night when I was playing, and we the gun in which I legitimately cannot stand, but I love to use, and that's the Goo Gun. I blew up the entire house looking for someone, and all the way to the bottom, and I was like, oh, what's this at the bottom? And so we went down there, and then the opponent actually started emoting because he was about to die. And so he started emoting, and then I pumped him, and I'm like, why was he dancing? That's weird. And all of a sudden, this person pops up and then throws 3 fireflies at me, and I'm burning. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is terrifying. And I have 3 zombies that appear as well. So I was that person that was running around with everything on fire, just like very, very confused, trying to figure it out. So bravo to that person for understanding it. But I love Grim. It's been my number 1 spot. Probably will be for the rest of the chapter of the season. So
I tried to bring a bunch of content creators down there who didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey guys, let's go check this thing out. I saw it on Reddit and I was like, this will be funny. I go down there. It took the 3 people I was playing with forever to find out how to go down there. So they were like, we're coming. And then they're like looting and like, I'm like, by the time they got there, I accidentally summoned the chick and I was like, ugh. This is dang it! Why did I ruin it on
it? Did you emote on it? That's what you did.
At the time, I don't know if it's fixed or not, but you don't have to emote on it anymore. It's just you walk over it. So it was like super anticlimactic. So I need to see these clips. So if you are at home and you're listening, please go there. Please bring your friends. Please record it. I would love to see and hear all of those moments because I didn't get mine because my friends are dumb. And so the next spot is Ash Williams' cabin. They did like a kind of a full recreate of Ash Williams. If you don't know who Ash Williams is, the most iconic for his chainsaw arm in The Evil Dead. And yeah, so he's kind of like this old, it was like horror, but it was like a different take on horror. You know, it wasn't like super scary as much as it was like Um, yeah, it was just like a different time for movie creation back then. So if you watch those movies back, you might be like, oh, this feels like Back to the Future meets horror. It's kind of like a little bit of what it is, but he's a very iconic character, and really cool to see how well they did like recreating him. I'm so curious of like for Fortnite, like what it looks like to go back and get an IP, like in
Hmm.
history. Like I'm very curious of what that looks like and how that works. I'm sure it's just somebody who owns the character, and they just knock on their door and they're like, "We haven't opened this book in 100 years." I wonder if they get better deals or something. They're like,
It's an infinite money glitch for anyone trying to like revitalize a
right,
character for sure.
right. It feels like a maybe Epic asked versus maybe like them being like,
Oh,
"Well,
I'm
here's
sure
a
there was like a diehard fan, because I have no idea who this is, but I'm sure there's someone working there is a diehard fan, and they were like, hey,
yeah,
let's do this, like we need to do this, I'm gonna get in
yeah,
contact with this person. So
yeah." I'm sure it's something like that for sure. I wonder who at Epic Games loves Ash Williams. Donald. But yeah, so he's got his own cabin, and you can go there. You'll have quests. There's a lot of Fortnite quests. So one of them is to buy a shotgun from him. And my favorite thing to do right now is to dress like him and then just chill there as people are trying to complete their quests, and you just eliminate them because you bought that outfit. So if you have that outfit, there's your idea. And then we've got creepy stabby girl. That's what I call her, at least. It's the one that you go up to talk to her. You're like, hey, there's normally an NPC here. I hope I could buy some heals because I'm really low. And then she starts stabbing you and running at you and stabbing you.
it's
The best.
terrifying.
It's terrifying. I
Literally.
I went with Liz there, and I knew it was going to happen, and I just watched her freak out the whole time and didn't help her. Was just watching her. The
I'm not
goal
a
is to be on high ground. So if you jump up on top of the house, you'll be safe, by the way. So if you're looking to stay alive.
I'm not a big scary movie guy, but that one got to me for a little bit. I was like, all right, this is a little too creepy. I was like, it's
Mm-hmm.
she's fast and she's moving at me, and
Sprints with her knife out. It's
yeah, it
crazy.
was. I was like, I randomly dropped on the location because I had to get rid of the gray area,
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll just go into this house. And all of a sudden, she appeared with like 4 zombies around here, and I was like, oh my! And I was trying, because I do builds, I don't do no build, and I
Yeah.
was just trying to box fight her. I was just like, okay, this is ridiculous, and she was just slashing everything that she could do, and I was like, this is insane.
Yeah. She's I think the most scariest of
Yeah.
all of the things for sure. And then of course, I think the big reveal, the thing that Fortnite thought to themselves, like, this is the $1 million Fortnitemares experience we want to deliver. And that is the reality tree disco. Now, I'm going to own my age here. Okay. I'm in the Boomer Brigade, like I've been playing video games a long time. I understand that youth like music. Okay. I like music, love music, but there is a caliber. There is a percentage of how high you should go and not go. PM would know this better than most. Like before we start the podcast, he's like, "Hey, can you lower your mic? Hey,
Yep.
can you turn up your mic? Hey," like he wants a balanced experience for those that are listening. I don't think there is that guy that works at Epic Games. I don't think he exists. They're just running rampant, like kids that got a new drum set for Christmas and are just banging upstairs for fun. Like there is no soundboards, there are no nothing. This guy is getting away with murder. And I mean quite literally, because every time I drop there, I can't hear anyone, I can't see anyone, and I get eliminated time and time again. So guess what I do with your new content, Fortnite? I just don't drop there.
Mm-mm.
I play with people, content creators that are supposed to be creating content for your game, and we all go, I'd rather go way away from that than be close to it.
Yeah.
So there's my take on reality tree disco time. But it's like we already have the rave cave and avoid that place. Why would you create another POI for us to avoid?
Yeah, I used to drop Rave Cave pretty much all the time during the summer because I love the vaults. Like we've talked about it before on the
Yeah,
podcast. I love
right.
vaults, and I think the vault system's super cool. And the Rave Cave always
Super
always
cool.
had the best one. So I was like, cool, let's go Rave Cave. The biggest issue was I couldn't hear my teammates. I couldn't hear any footsteps. I couldn't even hear any gunshots at all in the game because the music was so loud. Like I would actively go around and pickaxe speakers to like get rid of them. I was like,
Yep.
I just can't hear everything. It's almost like they took that and they were like, okay, so have you ever watched like Gone in 60 Seconds? And like
Yeah.
those type of movies from like the early
Hmm.
2000s, it's like they took that like mindset of like this dirty, grungy kind of like after party mentality and they amplified it. So the
Hmm.
music is kind of cringy, but at the
Yep.
same time, they don't turn it down. And so I landed there once and I heard it and I just turned back around. I was like, I'm kidding all the way up out of here because I mean, I agree. Like I get they're trying to give you this experience and they're trying to make it seem like it's this huge party and it's like cool you're landing here and you know you're gonna emote and you're gonna feel the music, but it's too much. It's too
It
much.
yeah. And it's kind of like one of those things where like nobody is dancing.
No,
So
just to get
like
the wolf. That's like pretty
just
much it. Which we'll talk about. But like that's
yeah.
the only reason why you're going there is to get that quote unquote power.
Right, right. But then, yeah, it's just like we're playing. At the end of the day, we're playing a VR. It almost feels like one of those things where it's like, like you do you make the bag. These big streamers get the bag with like YouTube, and YouTube's like, hey, here's our conditions. You got to stream at least this amount of time
Yeah.
on our platform every month. If you do that, we will pay you. Blah 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 blah. It almost feels like they made deals with like these audio teams, like these like big record labels, and they're like, "Hey, we'll have you and we'll let you use our music for the radio if there is this amount of music being played or something." Like it literally kind of feels like that because it is being blasted everywhere. One of my
Yeah.
favorite POIs is Midmap. There's like this blimp there, and there's just a speaker on top, just like blah 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 blah, and I'm like dropping, like trying to get stuff. I think there's enemies. I've got visual sound effects on, so like I see enemies, but I don't actually hear them. It's like blah 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 blah. I drop right on top of that stupid speaker and destroy it right away, so that. And I typically die because they go for the gun and I go for like my hearing. But like that difference, like essentially is like what eliminates me. And I'm like,
You're doing good for everybody on the map.
yeah, though. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It felt like the Infinity Blade, the person that would drop on the Infinity Blade
Go out
and
in the
then
water,
go out in
dump
the
it.
sea and drop it out there.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I feel like that's what I'm doing in the game of Fortnite. Like, and I think I am helping a majority of my those 100 players that might be coming through there. They're gonna have a better game because of me. You can thank me later.
The one thing I will say is if anyone at Epic is listening and if you plan to not just take the gain and turn it down like 3 decibels, my only recommendation is have us be the voice as opposed to music. You know, put
Yeah.
us on there. Have us be
Be
25,
more
you know,
funny.
gain exactly. Have us be on there telling you about the game of Fortnite while you're dying to zombie chickens. It's better than the same song on repeat every time you drop.
This
Like
is what I want.
I have the Rave Cave song, one of those songs that I think is in Rocket League, that is stuck
Yeah.
in my head continuously, and I never have listened to it outside of the Rave Cave. So
This is what I want. I just want self-awareness. So I think it would be funnier if you had one of our voices be like, "Hey everybody, time to blow out your eardrums. Here's the next song." Like I need those DJ comments in between like music, like, "Hey, I hope you wanted to hear those footsteps. Too bad." And then
yeah, almost like a comedic, like
Yeah,
a
they need-
comedic aspect to it for sure. Yeah, I could see
yeah,
that.
they need that entry point because if that happens, then I'm like, okay, like that's
They understand,
hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, they get it. Like that would be fantastic. But instead, all we're getting is just more POIs with loud music, which and maybe that's the future. PM. Maybe the future is this DJ Wolf isn't going anywhere, and the real enemy of Fortnite is music itself. Which I don't know if that's a good way to go about it, but that could
That
be
was
what we have. in front
that
of
sounds
us.
so powerful. The real enemy is music itself. What if like Jonesy pops out and he's like destroying every DJ set and he's like the real enemy is music and the final showdown in the battle royale is him versus Marshmallow, and
Yeah,
whoever
the
wins
battle of
gets
the
to decide the
DJs.
fate. Yeah, exactly. That would be so funny.
Oh my gosh. Different DJs like taking over POIs. They're like, and we have, Marshmallow. It's now Synapse Mellow verse. We're like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's pretty much the biggest part of Fortnitemares. And I think that's where my disappointment is kind of mostly founded. We talked about our hot takes at the beginning, but I think ultimately I'm like, that's cool. Like the visually, it's beautiful, it's cool,
Hmm.
it looks great. The idea of like a new mythic that you can utilize and have fun with is awesome. It's just the actual music being implemented and just kind of forced down our throats a little bit.
Did
That's a
you
little too much for me.
did you ever watch Pimp My Ride?
Yeah, yeah,
You know the meme that's like, "Hey, bro, I heard you wanted this, so we gave you this times this," and it's
yeah.
like it's exactly like that. It's like, "Hey, bro, we heard you like the Marshmallow concert in Chapter One, so we gave you 10 times the amount of music at 10x volume," and it's like that is exactly what it is, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Okay, we didn't really want that. We just wanted another Travis Scott concert. That's all that we really wanted. So we don't need music every time we drop. Just get us a Drake concert, and we are good to go."
Well, I will say that it's that innovation that Pimp My Ride is a great analogy. That is like Fortnite, like
Hmm.
I cherish that about them. Like I don't think like you don't see a lot of big game companies taking as much risk as Fortnite
Yeah.
does. And I think that is a part of the growth, like why there's a lot of growth. And I think that's a part of why there's like that charm. They're willing to try something. But I do feel them like taking advice and also like it's almost like they're fighting themselves a little bit. Like they don't have a direct competitor. They're kind of competing against their selves or different like philosophies of how the game should be played
Which is
because
good.
yeah, I think that's great. But there's like I guess we could get into it now. It's like there's a lot of players that get frustrated about certain things, right now it's the Goo Gun, like
Hmm.
very powerful, very strong.
Well, can
um
I can I chime in real quick?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think the Goo Gun is fine. I do think it needs to be nerfed a little bit just because it's just excessive. But I think when you pair it with the rocket launcher and with grenades,
yeah,
that is when it gets bad. Because you
right.
just have way too much happening, and it's just you just have. I mean, I've been in situations where someone has the high ground and Goo Gun, rocket launcher, nade all at once, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I can't even comprehend the 2 seconds that just happened, and I
Yep.
feel like that is where it becomes too much.
Well, and we've talked about this. I think like this is a separate tangent, but like building is overpowered
Hmm.
as a whole. Like, like being able to build quickly and efficiently and fast and all that, that is an overpowered feature that allows anybody like the ability to survive.
Hmm.
So all of what Fortnite has been experimenting with since the mech is ways to get into builds and eliminate somebody that might be abusing the fact that they've got 999 mats,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what all of these creations have been. If you're curious, like or the bottle that you would throw and it would make the storm come, like
Hmm.
the like any type of explosive, any type, like even the chrome to get you inside somebody else's builds, like all of these things are trying to formulate or figure out a theory to counteract something that is already overpowered. And
Hmm.
so the goo has to be overpowered to even meet that type of thing. And so I think that's what we're dealing with. And that's what players might not see or understand is like that balance issue has been an issue since the beginning.
Yeah.
And there has been nothing to really even closely compete with turbo building in Fortnite. And
Yeah.
so that's why people are angry. And that's, I mean, I get it, but I also like think we have to carry the reality as well. Like we love turbo building. We wanted turbo building, but turbo building causes more problems. And I think that's why zero builds has become so popular. It's
Hmm.
this counter to turbo building. And
Yeah.
so people that loved the game, loved the developer, loved Epic Games, loved what they were doing, but couldn't understand or get involved with turbo building the same way. I get frustrated with it because like I'll play builds and I'm a good player, but there are players out there that just do not sleep, eat, or drink and are just in creative. I am going to lose to that player every time. And I
Yeah.
don't want to, in my content creation side of things, devote 3 hours in creative every day to keep up with some of these kids. Some content creators do it, some professional players do it, but I just don't feel like that is where content is. Like, I know what it looks like to do a triple edit. I know what it looks like to look really good at your builds and be really proficient at it, but it all looks the same. You know, there isn't
You
any like clips or creativity or uniqueness to any of that, and that's why I'm not as interested in it. I would rather have a very funny clip or a very funny thing that brings joy to people that watch over another crown. You know, like
yeah.
that disposition, I think, is what changes for content creators. And so when you force us inside a situation where there's this kid that's like, all I got is that goo gun. You
Mhm.
know, like that's my saving grace, because if I don't have it, it doesn't even anything in the battlefield. And all of those players that are like building like a trillion builds, they aren't playing in competitive environments anyways.
Mm-mm.
All they're doing is stomping in pubs. And so it's like annoying if you're not going to give us a balanced system to put those crazy people all in the same island together while the rest of us enjoy builds the way like I think it was intended. We're gonna have a problem with turbo building as a whole.
Yeah, I almost wonder if Fortnite should even take the experimenting farther and do one mode that's turbo build and one mode that's not. And
Yeah,
try to see if maybe that even works for a week. Because,
totally.
technically no build was only supposed to be around for like what, a week and a half, 10 days, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then they said, "Oh, hey, this is a huge hit. We're just going to keep it indefinitely." So maybe they can do the same with the next chapter that comes up. Like, "Hey, we're gonna introduce a turbo build and a non-turbo build mode, and
yeah,
see if maybe content creators love the non-turbo build, and then the hyper competitive people hate it." I mean, I brought it up on this pod before, and I hate doing it again, but um, you have to find a way to make these competitive people just not want to play a mode. It's not necessarily about trying to protect
well,
people
that's the
who
goo
aren't
gun right
good.
now, I think,
Exactly.
honestly. You
So
know,
like you need to be like, hey, we want to protect the people that aren't as good. That's not going to do like that's not going to change much. It's just going to kind of upset everybody. But if you go like, hey, we're going to make it so competitive people just cannot stand this game mode, I think you're going to see all those sweaties go, okay, cool. We'll just go play the one that we actually like.
yeah.
Remove all the, or add all the crazy weapons in a pub. So all the goo guns, every mech, every rocket launcher, whatever. Make it so the competitive people are like, this is stupid. I can't sweat. I can't be, the talent that I want to be. I'm going to go play competitive. And then you'll notice how much more fun those pubs are.
And that's what I think that's been their
Yeah.
strategy from the beginning, honestly. I think they've just listened to the casual audience of like, what does it look like to play this game and have fun?
Yeah.
And for a majority of people, that is those things.
if
And
if competitive hates a season, if they come out with their tweet brigades and they're like, fix Fortnite, oh, fix this and that, that's how you know it's a good season. I'm just saying that right now, because that means everybody's having fun and those people are dying to that fun.
right.
So
Yeah, we just want control. I think
yeah.
ultimately, competitive players want to be able to control, like if, and that's the problem. There's so much money on the line, so like that's disheartening, right? When your POI gets changed or like something that you know better than than your own family. Like this exactly where the ammo boxes are. You've dropped here 100 million times. When that changes, I feel like there's frustration.
And that's
When the mechanics of the game change, there's frustration, and that is because your money that you want more than playing with your friends, having fun, the maybe the competitive spirit, or maybe like the money that is easy for you right now is now gone too. And I think like that is the unfortunate reality of some of the situations where like, yeah, there's money on the line. And so my my favorite thing from a spectator standpoint is just to watch somebody adapt to something new and something
mhm.
different. And like I played in this Pizza Hut Cup not too long ago, and they created their own creative map. None of us had context for where we were dropping, what was going on, and it was kind of refreshing. There was like this, like, ooh, anybody can win this if you figure out something before somebody else does.
Yeah.
And there is this like element of like, are you a player that's good enough to like change with the seasons? And I think that's why we see a lot of frustration. I think that's why we see a lot of burnout. That's why we see a lot of people whining, is because maybe they've just played the game long enough to have to adapt so much that they're tired of it and they don't want to be a part of it anymore. And that's fine. Like, I think that's okay. But yeah, so I think
I
like
do,
what
I do want to say real quick, just to kind of side note it, because I did talk with acting like Tommy about this on Twitter, and Colazo kind of mentioned it too. I think a lot of the issues right now with competitive and versus pub is the comp scene is really boring for a lot of the competitors. There's just nothing really there for them to really want to compete with. And I think that'll change when the World Cup comes back, like full swing, and you start seeing those qualifiers kick in. I think that is when you'll see a lot of those competitive people get back into like full time, like scrims and competitions and staying out of pubs. Because I just feel like right now the comp scene is so boring, and a lot of these guys rely on it on Twitch and YouTube to be competitive players, because that's their target demographic. But they've had to adjust and be like, okay, cool, there's nothing in comp, I'm gonna go play pubs and be annoying, or I'm gonna go play pubs and like get a 30 bomb, because that's gonna give you like 200,000 views on YouTube. And I think you're starting to see a little more of that recently, just because of the competitive scene being very boring,
stale.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself how crazy it would be if like the FNCS Invitational was like the brand new map, and they were like, welcome everybody,
Yeah.
you did so great last season, welcome to the new map.
Like, that would be so much fun to watch
from a
everyone
spectator
freak out.
standpoint,
Yeah.
that would be huge.
I mean, we've talked about it. Some of the best competitive moments in
would hate
Fortnite is the chaotic moments. The sword, when the random zero gravity field kicked in the middle of the events. When
they would be so angry though, like every competitive player would be like,
but it would be gold. It would be content gold to watch how angry they get.
Oh my gosh. Where I was going with like this whole conversation originally, I know we always end up here because it's like, I think looking at the landscape of the game, there's just so much going on with Fortnite. But I did want to talk about like these full game altering effects versus like what Fortnite is called in the past rift zones. I want to articulate the difference between for those that are listening. So there was a Halloween update. I think it was one of the first ones or a second one, I think, where they just put zombies everywhere on the map. It was like, zombies are now on the island everywhere. And so we as players were like, what? Like, the game is not normal. Like we all kind of were frustrated a little bit. And then they were like, oh yeah. Like, oh shoot. Now we're going to put it in this like one zone. Like this one POI has zombies. So there's like this give and take of like, sometimes Fortnite implements everything. So zombie chickens is a good example this season. Zombie chickens are everywhere. Watch out. But you're like, I'm used to wolves, so that's okay. But then there are things that are like in a specific area. Like if you remember Taco Time at Greasy, you'd be battling blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, and then like everybody was dancing while like throwing tacos.
You were like looking at your opponent. You were like, I'm gonna get you when this is done.
I just one pumped you, and now I'm so sad that I can't finish you. Yeah, it's very funny. So like that, I'm sure gets feedback from Epic Games of like whether or not people drop there, whether or not it's fun, all those different things. It's interesting because I think Fortnite has now taken this, like, and I think this is why we experience Fortnitemares the way it is. They've taken this approach of like, well, if I change a POI and you drop there, that's on you. I feel like that's kind of the vibe now. We don't get these like massive changes to the map entirely unless there's a new season, that's implementing a new feature or whatnot. So what's weird to me is like, I don't know. We like chrome zombies were hinted at like as like this cool thing, and there and like loading screens and stuff, and maybe it was planned, it just didn't work out. I don't know, but like I just felt like the whole ambiance, like we talked about at the beginning, like it doesn't feel like Nightmares on the island. It
Mm-mm.
just feels like there are specific areas you could go to feel like you're part of Halloween, and maybe they'll do what they did with Christmas, where the whole map was like snow. Maybe they'll do that at like one day. I don't know, but it just feels like I wonder if Fortnite is moving away from ever doing like, here's the full map. Uh, here's the full map for Halloween. Here's the full map. Blah blah blah. Like, I wonder if they're moving away from that.
I
If
hope
this
they
is what
don't.
we are seeing, because like if you just pay attention to the past 5 seasons, we have seen less and less and less of this like full immersion of like, yep,
Yeah.
zombies are everywhere, but you only have to deal with it for 2 weeks. Uh, versus like something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I hope this isn't like a precursor into them being like, oh, only Rave Cave is gonna have snow for Christmas. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like I think they did that last year, right? Where it was only
Last
like the
year was all
top
snow.
was
It
okay,
was
so it was
everywhere.
all
Yeah.
snow. Yeah,
Mhm.
because they do, it's better when the whole map changes based on the seasons. I just think they just failed to commit to that this season for some reason.
Yeah, I hope so too. And like I said, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like maybe there were chrome zombies, but
Hmm.
like mechanically it didn't work out, or they tried a new feature that like with sprint and it doesn't work very well. I don't know. But yeah, it's just interesting to me. And I hope that I'm sure you could see them struggling with striking a balance, but I hope that they kind of find that balance.
Yeah.
And then the interesting thing, the last thing, at least that was added, was these wolf helmet powers. It's like you can go to this like these altars and dance on the altar next to the DJ, and then you get a helmet and you can put the helmet on, and it gives you the ability, if you press like your space bar or jump, you can slash kind of like Wolverine's like claws and slash across the map a little bit. And then there is this ability to howl, like
Hmm.
where you just, and then when you howl, you can see players, which I think is really great. Probably more for builds or like POIs that have like layers to them. Less helpful for like no builds unless they're in grass. But yeah, you can howl and see where they are and line up shots and shoot at them without them kind of knowing where you are. And then like if you're being hunted, you hear your heartbeat, which is actually kind of cool. So the closer they are, your heartbeat goes faster and faster, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's right behind me. But ultimately, lackluster, I would say, in its helpfulness, it's kind of more gimmicky, which is kind of a bummer. Like
Yeah.
I kind of look at mythics as like not maybe Infinity Blade status, but like more on the, this is a cool mechanic that's a little bit more dicey or ridiculous, um that actually has helpfulness to it, in some capacity, which I feel like howling is great and all, but like it doesn't really change too much other than somebody being like, how did he see me?
Yeah,
you know
I think it's the most one of the more mid kind of mythics they've introduced.
yeah,
I'm not gonna go out of my way to get it, and I'm not gonna pick it up if I see it on the floor.
right, yeah,
So it just takes up a slot that I need to use for other things.
hmm,
And I just don't find a reason for it. I mean, you could say that, oh, it's like you can, get a beacon on your opponents, but it's also the worst looking beacon, like a purple blob that you
yeah.
can't really make out. And I just avoid it every time. So
Which when I first played with it, I was like, ooh, like you could have made this so much better. And here's
yeah.
my thought, right? Like we have sacred, our 5 slots are sacred at this point in
Hmm.
time. Every single one of us, even you listening right now, have a shotgun spot, have an AR spot, and then have
Hmm.
an like a special spot, which could be a rocket launcher, could be your goo gun, could be your sniper rifle. You've got some mobility and you've got heals, or you got 2 heals, right? So like those spots, when you pick up a new item, though one of those things has to go. Can't
Hmm.
snipe now. I'm not going to use my shotgun. I'm like, you're limited, right? Like you start to be limited in what you can do. So why can't like helms or things or mythics have their own very specific slot?
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like you now have another additional power, like a superpower, if you will, that it's your superpower slot. It's like available for these things.
Hmm.
I get that you want to balance, I get those types of things, but if the mythic is so lackluster that it's not worth a slot, make it its own.
Yeah.
Like imagine getting that same helmet and now you can't get full sniped, right? Because you're
Yeah.
wearing a helmet. Like imagine it's like, oh, that only does 120, and now I know where you are. Like that's an actual helpful advantage of like I'm gonna go dance on that stupid platform because I want a helmet to not take a full sniper face shot. You know, like there are ways in which you can make that more interesting and more valuable and have people use it, which I think is kind of how you want what you want out of players, especially casual players, to be like, ooh, I want to try that. Ooh, whoa, it's in its own slot. That's cool.
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't take a sniper shot. I'm gonna get that next game. Like, I think that's what you want to do with your games is you want people to play with your new item and hold on to it and use it and get excited about it. But I feel like we're now kind of in this era of like Epic, whenever they release something, it used to be they would release something and it's overpowered and then they would scale it back. Now it's they release it very, very softly, and then they have to enhance it, much like the Chrome weapons, right? Like
Yep.
the Chrome weapons were absolutely useless,
Hmm.
and now they're at a place where it's like, okay, yeah, I'll use that gun. Like
Yeah.
now I'll use it. But like it's interesting that like it's the reverse now, and I think maybe they've just gotten better feedback that it to do it that way. But mythics are always in these weird spots now where it's like, oh my gosh, it's this cool thing, this new feature you're adding it. It's FORTNITEMARES. And then it's like, oh, I'm never picking that up again. Like, and that is I think not where you want your game. But maybe that's me. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, I completely agree. I know that we talked about that on the last podcast episode, like how Epic would put things out that were way too powerful to begin with, and then nerf it like 3 days later. It seems like they're definitely taking the other approach. I mean, I think the Evochrome shotguns and AR, we talked about it in the last episode. It was garbage. Like we
Yeah.
saw them and we were like, there's no way I am picking those up. And now I actually use them. Like if I see the Evochrome AR and it's above a blue, I'm like, cool, this will shred builds. I'll be able to get some
Yeah.
good damage on people. I can't really aim far. Like
Right.
the
No.
way
You're not going to
the
hit somebody out of the sky.
no, it's that part would be very overpowered if they allowed that. So I totally get it. But the two shot timing on the Evochrome shotgun is a lot better.
Yeah.
I
100%.
just don't like the hit scan. Like I don't like the horizontal hit scan. I think it
Yeah.
looks kind of
Sure.
funky. But I've definitely been using it a lot more. So I think that's good on them to up that. But we talked about it last pod, and I want to reiterate it now. Is that everyone already has this bad impression of this gun anyways. So
Right.
it could be the best gun in the world, but everyone thinks it's terrible because of the first 2 weeks that you put it out. And
Sure.
maybe that's what they want to do is say, hey, this this gun's going to be bad, don't use it, and then they slowly nerf it or sorry, boost it, over the couple weeks, and it's actually a good gun, but no one's abusing it.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
also putting myself in the shoes of like a dad that gets to play like 2 hours every weekend.
yeah,
I'm wondering if that guy even knows the
no,
difference. You know?
no, he
Like I
doesn't.
think he's
They
just
don't
like,
know.
you know what I'm saying? So I feel like in some ways it's like I feel like they're doing damage control of like content creators that are like, this is the worst gun in the world, and then post a video on it, and thousands of millions of people are like, oh my
And
gosh, I'm
then
not gonna
you
use that.
see
And
it
then that
on
dad's like, you know
yeah.
what, I'm not gonna play with that gun.
You
Like
see it on
it's a
TikTok at like,
yeah,
11 at
yeah.
night, and you're like, yeah, I'll skip on that one.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more of that because I think that's an important perspective to always have in any given situation. Like
Yeah.
competitive players, different mindset, content creators, different mindset, casual players, different mindset. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think overall, overall, after everything we've talked about, I mean, also a decent amount of cosmetics, right? We've
Hmm.
talked like there's tons of cosmetics. They do this every time. It's just like how they make their money at this point. Some that are collaborations, some that aren't. Um, and we don't have well, there's free cosmetics too, so that's kind of cool. Like
Yeah.
I think like anytime when you can unlock free stuff, there's going to be like this chrome punk outfit that's coming out, and then all of these like cool like chromey like I don't know, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like this like flowy chrome, I guess, cosmetics that you can earn in the game right now. And then we're going to be updating my app for that, by the way. So if you're looking for free like cosmetics, you're like, where can I find free stuff? In my app, Squatingdog for Fortnite, you'll be able to actually check off everything that is free out there. And we're going to try to update that every day. So just as a heads up, like if you just need a place where it's like, if I watch a streamer, I get this like loading screen. If I blah 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 blah, whatever it is, we're going to essentially do a list of all those things, so you can check that out. By the time this podcast goes live, you should be able to see all of that.
Yeah.
But anyways, free cosmetics, and then the last thing I would say is we don't have any brooms, and I think it's because we have so much mobility already on the map that it would just be mobility overkill. But there was something special about that I think like unfortunately it's no longer in this season, and I think it's mostly because of mobility. I think they just looked at the map and were like, you know what,
Yeah.
there's just too much mobility, which is kind of a bummer. But overall, PM, after everything we've said, what would you give it out of 5? You can give us a point system. What would you give this Fortnitemares out of 5?
Out of the, oh man, out of the whole, that's tough. That is because it's not the worst, but it's not the best, but it's also not good. So
Yeah.
I would say around that 2, probably 2 out of 5 mark.
Yeah.
Would be where I put it. I wouldn't go any higher than that. I think there's some really redeeming qualities about this Fortnitemares. I like the mobility of this island as a whole, but that was before the
Yeah.
Fortnitemares.
Mm-hmm.
I like some of the cool bosses, but I think they're just executed poorly. I think they needed to make the map better. I think they needed to add the fog. I think that they needed to add some sort of different dynamic to the island as a whole, not just specific POIs.
Jump scares everywhere.
Yeah, and I something's just missing. Something is just missing, and I think you hinted at it that they are looking to move forward to the
Yeah.
next thing. So
Right. Got Christmas around the corner,
yep.
new chapter coming out. You gotta be all hands on deck. Yeah, I think two's a decent score. I'd probably say 2.5. Give it like a half grade, like right in the middle. It's like, if we were rating on a scale, they would have been fine, but
Mhm.
like it's just not my favorite for Nightmares. I'm here for the content, and it's like for example, I hid in the ash like cabin for like 8 games to find somebody to drop there. It's like,
No one's going
as
there.
a content creator, it's like such a bummer because you're
It's
like
it's
you
all
have
the way
to.
out at the end of the map. Like
Yeah.
other than people landing on it first stage just to get that gray mark out of the way, no
Yeah.
one's really landing there. So
The wolf head was down for like 4 or 5 days, like almost a full week.
mhm.
That like the thing that they brought out for us to be excited about wasn't even in the game. So I don't know. It just feels like their attention is elsewhere, and that's fine. Hopefully, this next chapter, this next season is going to be phenomenal and exciting, and like we'll look back at it and go, "Yeah, I'm glad they didn't care too much because of
Yeah,
all of
because
this."
like look what this next thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for that. Got my fingers crossed for that. But yeah, I think like a 2.5 out of me. What about you? Those that are listening, give us your rate. If you want to engage with us at all or talk to us about anything about the podcast, feel free to connect with us on Twitter at Unvaulted Pod or the Squatting Dog, or it's PM. Thanks again for being here, PM, for being my sounding board for Chapter 3, Season 4, Fortnitemares. You're improving.
Hmm.
It's a work in progress on terms of some of your takes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Any last words for our listeners?
Um. No, honestly, I think I got everything I needed to say. I just am bummed about this Fortnitemares. But I'm gonna keep continuing to play it and bring back the tack.
There it is.
That's what I'm gonna put next time is hashtag bring back the tag right there.
No one wants to see.
I love the tag. The tag is my favorite.
All right, go away. Until next time, I'm Squatingdog. This is Oh It's PM. We'll see you later.